Mia Evans, a seamstress from Dorchester, thought love with Oliver Sterling would change her life. Instead, she faced his family's icy rejection and his silence. Shattered, she fought to save her mother's failing heart, only to be cruelly dismissed by Oliver. Just when all hope seemed lost, a small act of kindness Mia once gave returned as a miracle, saving her mother and leading her to true family, strength, and love. My name is Amelia Evans, but everyone just calls me Mia. To the world, I guess I'm a seamstress. A word that sounds so simple, kinda old-fashioned. But in the little 2-bedroom apartment in Dorchester, me and my mom call home, I'm a storyteller. My language ain't words on paper. It's the glide of a needle on fabric, spools of colored thread, yards of silk, soft as a whisper. Every stitch is a sentence, every dress, a whole chapter. The stories I make, they're about new beginnings. About when a woman needs to feel her most beautiful, her strongest, her truest. I make wedding dresses. Our place doesn't have fancy furniture or anything. Instead, it's full of morning sun and a love so big it's the only thing that ever mattered. My mother, Eleanor Evans, made it a sanctuary. A place of warmth. She's the one who put the old singer, my grandma's legacy, in my hands when I was 9. Your hands were made to create beauty, Mia. She'd say, her voice like hot tea on a cold day. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise. Her voice and the steady clatter of that machine, that was the music of my life. Even when her heart condition made her breath go thin, her spirit was a lighthouse. A solid rock belief that with my own hands and a good heart, I could make anything. Tonight, I'm getting ready for a big chapter in my own story. On the mannequin in the corner is a silk dress. Sky blue, not pale blue. It's the deep, clean blue of a May sky after a hard rain. Full of promise. I spent a whole week on it, every seam perfect, every fold soft as a petal. This is the dress. The one I'll wear to meet the Sterlings. Oliver Sterling. He walked into my life like a cool breeze in a stuffy Boston summer. He came from another world. A whole other world. Beacon Hill, brownstones, fancy clubs, dinner parties. Top of his class at Harvard Law. The only son of the Sterling family. The kind with money and finance. But somehow, he chose me. Said he loved my authenticity. The way I could turn a piece of cloth into art. He loved my hands, calloused from needles, more than any manicured ones. It's time, Mia. He said on the phone last week, his voice so gentle. I want you to meet my family. You're very, very important to me. Those words became a promise, a song in my head. When I put on the blue dress, twirling in front of my old mirror, I let myself dream. I saw a future I never dared to before. A small house, white picket fence, a rose garden, the sound of kids laughing. And Oliver? Always there, his smile chasing away the shadows. This is it, I thought. Tonight, my life changes forever. And it did. It really did. Just not how I dreamed. The rain started the second I stepped outside, just a sprinkle at first. Then, in minutes, a heavy, cold New England downpour. A real storm. I didn't even feel the cold seeping through the silk till it was stuck to me like a second skin. Heavy. Awful. The streetlights blurred. Long, ghostly shadows on the wet pavement. I walked faster. Then I was running. Just running. Away from them. From the memory of their stone-cold faces, their words, coated in sugar but sharp as daggers. And most of all, his silence. The deafening silence of the man I gave my whole heart to. My hair, plastered to my face. My heels, the ones I never wear, squelching with every step. The sky blue dress, my symbol of hope, was now dark and heavy with rain. Just like the promise it stood for, shattered. The Sterling's place in Beacon Hill wasn't a house, a fortress. That's what it was, built to protect money and bloodlines. Old red brick walls, big polished windows looking out on a cobblestone street, and a heavy oak door that seemed made to keep the rest of the world out. The moment Oliver led me inside, the air changed. Outside, it was wet with rain. Inside, it was thick with the smell of floor wax, old leather books, and the kind of money that gets passed down and down. It was fancy, sure, but it was suffocating. I felt like a trespasser. Oliver's father, Mr. Richard Sterling, shook my hand. His grip was firm, quick, and cold. The handshake of a man who signs million-dollar deals, not one who welcomes a guest. Miss Evans, he said, voice flat. No emotion. His eyes barely met mine before flicking away. His mother, Mrs. Victoria Sterling, was different. She didn't shake my hand. Nope, she just stood there, a perfect statue in some designer dress, her blonde hair in a perfect bun. She looked me up and down, slow, calculating. Her icy blue eyes went over my homemade dress, my curled hair, my discount store shoes. A little smile, almost a smirk, touched her perfect red lips. Amelia, she said. Amelia. She said my name like it was something you scrape off the bottom of your shoe. Oliver has told us a little about you. The way she said, little, it wasn't an introduction. It was a warning. It meant what Oliver told them wasn't enough, and probably wasn't worth telling in the first place. Dinner was in a room big enough for an army. Just 4 of us at a giant mahogany table, so polished I could see my own warped reflection. It felt empty, lonely, like the space between us was a canyon. A butler in a uniform moved like a ghost, serving food I didn't recognize. The interrogation started after the soup. "So, Amelia, Mrs." Sterling began, swirling her wine. "Oliver tells us you're a seamstress. What a classic profession." Classic. She made it sound like a fossil. "I specialize in custom-designed wedding dresses, ma'am," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. My hands gripping each other under the table. "I hope to open my own studio someday." "Oh, a studio," she repeated, like it was a cute, silly little dream. "A lovely ambition. And where did you study for this? Parsons? Fit? I have friends on their boards." My heart sank. A trap. "No, ma'am. I completed a degree program in fashion design at a community college in Boston." Silence. So heavy you could hear my heart hammering against my ribs. I could feel their eyes, Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, talking to each other across the table. A look that said it all. Oliver sat still, head down, pushing a carrot around his plate. He wouldn't look at me. "Community college?" Mr. Richard finally said, breaking the quiet. His voice dripped with fake curiosity. "Admirable, being so self-reliant. Your father must be very proud. What field is he in?" My throat closed up. "My father, he passed away when I was young, sir. It's just been my mother and me." "Oh, what a shame, Mrs. Sterling said, her voice holding zero sympathy. Cold, like she was talking about the weather. "And your mother? Does she support this little passion of yours?" "My mother taught me to sew. She's my greatest inspiration," I said, a little fire in my voice. They would not talk about my mom. "How sweet," she said, that sarcastic little smile again. Then she turned right to Oliver, like I wasn't even there anymore. "Oliver, dear, you remember the DeWitts? Their daughter, Caroline, just graduated with honors from Wharton, landed a wonderful position at Goldman Sachs in New York. A truly ambitious girl. Knows what she wants in life." Every word was a cut, precise, cruel. They weren't just judging me, they were tearing me down in front of him, showing him his mistake. Offering him another path, another woman, another life. A life that fits. A life without me. And Oliver? He just sat there, said nothing. Not a word. He didn't say, "I love her, mother." He didn't say, "Her past doesn't define her." Nothing. He just stared at his plate, his handsome face red with shame. And I knew, right then, he was ashamed of me. When the butler brought dessert, some fancy chocolate thing I couldn't eat, I knew I was done. I couldn't take one more second. I put my napkin on the table. "Thank you for the wonderful dinner," I said, my voice shaking but clear. "But I'm afraid I have to go. My mother's waiting." Mrs. Sterling just raised an eyebrow. "Oh, of course. You must have things to do. It was interesting meeting you." I stood up. My eyes begged him. "Oliver, look at me. Say something. Anything." But he didn't stared. He stared at that chocolate mousse like it was the most interesting thing in the world. I turned and walked away. I felt their eyes on my back. I walked alone down that long, cold hall, fought with the heavy oak door by myself, and stepped out into the storm, alone. He stayed behind, in his warm, safe, rich world. In his silence, he'd made his choice. He chose them. I trudged through the rain. No direction. Just had to get away. Couldn't go home. Not right away. I couldn't let Mom see me like this. Shattered, soaked, rejected so completely. My mother, Eleanor, she has a fragile heart, for real, and she reads my pain like an open book. My sadness would just be a weight on her, and I couldn't do that. Finally, a pink neon sign flickered through the storm. The Midnight Grind. A 24-hour coffee shop. A lighthouse. I practically fell inside, bringing the rain and my misery with me. The smell of coffee and cinnamon hit me. A simple, instant comfort. I ordered a big latte, wrapped my hands around the warm mug like it could warm my soul. Sitting by the window, watching the car lights smear across the glass, the truth hit me. Hard. My anger at the Sterlings started to fade. It was replaced by a deeper ache, for Oliver. And then, the worst part, for myself. This wasn't just about a bad dinner. It was about every time I let my own insecurity win. Every time I compare my little Dorchester apartment to their world. Every time I wondered if my dream was too small, too stupid in a world of Ivy Leagues and Wall Street jobs, I bet everything on him, on his family's approval. I was naive enough to think his love was my ticket to a world where I belonged. I was a fool. I thought he saw me, Mia Evans, who could make magic from cloth. But he saw Mia Evans, the working-class girl from Dorchester. The girl with a sick mom and no trust fund or nothing. His silence tonight. It wasn't a weakness. It was an answer. The answer. He heard them, saw the difference between me and Caroline from Wharton, and he agreed. His silence was him agreeing. He didn't fight for me, 'cause maybe he never thought I was worth fighting for. I took a sip of the latte. Bitter coffee. Salty tears. I wasn't even trying to stop anymore. They just rolled down my face. My phone buzzed. Oliver. Of course. A stupid little spark of hope flared up. Pathetic. I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen till it went dark. It buzzed again. A text. "Mia, we need to talk. I'm sorry." I silenced it. shoved it aside, because I knew, no matter what he said, I couldn't unsee him sitting there. Silent, cowering, while my world fell apart around him. This isn't the end of my story. I won't let it end here. Not in some random coffee shop with a broken heart. Maybe this is a beginning. A brutal one, a necessary purge. The rain outside wasn't just cleaning the streets, it was washing away my illusions. And underneath, a raw, painful truth was coming out. I had to save myself. With these two hands, the next few days were a blur. Work, avoidance. I took every job I could. An alteration, a complicated wedding outfit, anything. I worked from dawn, till my hands ached from the needles, just so my brain wouldn't have time to think, to remember. Oliver called. He texted dozens of times. Mia, please pick up. I know I messed everything up. I'm sorry. You're killing me with this silence. I read them all. I deleted them all. I had nothing to say to him. But life has a way of reminding you, a cruel way, that there are always bigger problems than a broken heart. About a week later, I came home from a long day. Mom was on the sofa. Something was wrong. Her face was white as a sheet, her lips a little blue. She was clutching her chest. Her breath was shallow. Fast. Mom, what's wrong? I panicked, dropped my bag, rushed to her. It's nothing, dear. She tried to smile. The smile didn't reach her eyes. They were full of fear. Just a little short of breath. I just need to rest. It wasn't just a little. It wasn't okay. We ended up in the ER at Mass General that night. Tests. A long, anxious night. They moved us to cardiology. A few days later, we're sitting in Dr. Evans's office, a top cardiologist. Kind eyes, but he didn't sugarcoat things. He put the test results on the desk. Black and white pictures of her heart. Terrifying. Mrs. Evans, your mitral valve regurgitation has gotten much worse. Your heart's pumping function is below 40%. The medicine, it's not enough anymore. I grabbed my mom's cold hand. So what do we do now, doctor? She needs surgery, he said. Straight up, we need to repair or replace the valve. And we need to do it soon. Within the next month, ideally, before the damage is permanent. The room spun. Surgery? I repeated. The words sounded like a gunshot. The cost. What's the cost? My mother's insurance. Dr. Evans sighed. The tired sigh of a man who's given this news too many times. That's the problem, Miss Evans. Her plan is basic. It doesn't cover this kind of complex cardiac surgery. Out of pocket, you're looking at maybe $150,000, maybe even $200,000. $150,000. The number just hung there. A wall. An impossible wall. It could have been $1 million. It didn't matter. We didn't have it. Our whole life savings wasn't even a tenth of that. The next few days were a nightmare. Desperation. I spent hours on phone, my voice raw, calling every charity I could find. Same answer every time. Polite. Cold. Sorry, our grant period is closed. We focus on pediatric cases. We can put her on a waiting list, 6 to 8 months. Time. The one thing we didn't have. I tried for a bank loan. Rejected. No collateral. I thought about selling things. But even Mom's beloved singer, priceless to me, was worth almost nothing. Finally, after a sleepless night watching her struggle to breathe, I did it. I did the one thing I swore I never would. I swallowed my pride. All of it. And I called him. I called Oliver. He picked up right away, like he was waiting. Mia, thank God, you finally called. I've been worried sick. He sounded so relieved. Oliver, I said. My voice was dry. It didn't even sound like me. I'm not calling about us. I need help. I told him everything. Fast. My voice shakes more with every word. Mom's condition. The surgery. The impossible cost. I hated myself. Hated the weakness in my voice. I don't know what else to do. I whispered. I just thought, maybe you, or your family, could lend me the money. A long silence. Not a thinking silence. A cold, heavy, judging silence. Then he laughed. A quiet laugh. But it was cruel. Bitter. Oh my God, Mia. Unbelievable. My mother was right. What? What? I asked. I didn't understand. She said this exact thing would happen. He said, his voice smug. She said, son, be careful. That girl has a sick mother. Sooner or later, she'll come to you for money. I didn't believe her. I defended you. I said you weren't like that. And now, the first call you make after a week of ignoring me is to ask for money. It's the perfect script. The blood drained from my face. My ears were ringing. Oliver, that's not true. What are you saying? My mother is dying. I'm sorry about your mother. I really am, he said, his voice like ice. No emotion. But this is not my problem. Maybe if you'd found a real career instead of following your passion with needles and thread, you could have taken care of your own family. Don't call me again. Click. He hung up. I stared at the phone. His words, like a drill in my head. He hadn't just said no. He used my pain to prove he was right. Him and his perfect family. He took the last shred of my dignity and crushed it. That's when I really broke. Not in the rain, Not in the coffee shop, but right there, in my own kitchen. The only sound was the ticking of the clock. I'd hit rock bottom. 2 days after that god-awful phone call, I'm sitting in the Mass General coffee shop, feeling empty. Invisible. Mom's upstairs getting more tests we can't pay for. In front of me, a stack of rejection letters. Each one a door slammed shut. Desperate wasn't a strong enough word. And as I sat there, drowning, a memory came back, clear as day. The afternoon, I went to Sterling Stott, before the rain. My car was in the shop, so I took the bus. The number 15, crowded, noisy. I remembered this old woman, standing at the front. She looked so worried, wearing an old beige coat, clutching a canvas bag. She was talking to the driver, her voice shaky. "Please, sir, I'm just 50 cents short," she pleaded. "My wallet. I think I dropped it. I have to get to Mass General. My grandson. He had an accident." The driver, a tired-looking guy with a long line behind him, just shook his head. "Ma'am, I can't sped. Rules are rules. No fare, no ride." Everyone looked away, pretended not to hear. My heart ached for her. I thought about the little cash I had, money I needed for the week. But then I looked at her panicked, watery eyes. I had to do something. I pushed my way up front. "I've got it," I said, and swiped my Charlie card twice. "My treat." The old woman turned, her kind eyes so wide. "Oh, no, dear. I couldn't. It's okay, really." I smiled, pulling her to a seat. "Please, sit." "You said you needed to get to Mass General?" We sat together. She told me her name was Jeanette Gable. Her grandson, Ethan, a construction worker, had fallen from a scaffold. She was terrified. We didn't talk much. But there was a connection. "You have a kind heart," she said when we got off the bus. She squeezed my hand tight. "In this crazy world, that's more precious than gold, dear. Don't ever lose it. I'll never forget your kindness." I just smiled. I thought it was just a passing moment, a small kindness on what turned into a terrible day. I had no idea I'd just planted the most important seed of my life. Is that you? The kind girl from the bus?" A warm, familiar voice. It pulled me out of the fog. I looked up, wiped my tears. Mrs. Jeanette Gable, standing right there, but she looked different, not worried anymore. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Mrs. Gable?" I said, surprised. "I knew I'd see you again," she said, smiling. She sat down, her face full of concern as she looked at my papers and my tear-stained face. "Dear, what's wrong? You look even worse than I did that day." Something about her genuine kindness just broke me. I told her everything. Mom, her heart, the surgery we couldn't afford, the mountain of debt. I even told her about Oliver, the whole ugly story. She just listened, didn't interrupt. Her wrinkled hand on mine, sending a strange warmth through me. When I was done, she just nodded slowly, a look of pure determination on her face. "You wait right here," she said. She stood up, pulled out an old cell phone, and made a call. She spoke quietly, but I could hear. "Ethan, can you come down to the coffee shop? Right now. There's someone I want you to meet." A few minutes later, a tall, sturdy guy walks in. Faded jeans, t-shirt with Carter Construction on it. He looked tired, a small scratch on his cheek, but his eyes were clear and full of worry for his grandma. This was Ethan. "Grandma? What's wrong? You okay?" he asked, his voice deep and warm. "I'm fine, Ethan," she said, her voice thick with emotion. She pointed at me. "Ethan, this is Amelia Evans, Mia, the girl I told you about, the one who paid my bus fare." Ethan turned to me. I saw recognition in his eyes. He gave me a polite nod. "I still don't understand," he said, looking back at his grandma. "Jeanette took both our hands. That day, when I called you from the ER, remember what you told me? You said the doctor said if I'd been half an hour later, they might not have been able to stop the bleeding. That I might have lost you." The coffee shop went silent. Ethan stared at me, his eyes wide as it all clicked into place. The whole story. "That bus," he started, his voice gone hoarse, "was delayed because I didn't have the fare," Jeanette finished for him. "If this kind girl hadn't swiped her card, no questions asked, I would have had to get off. I would have been late. You understand, Ethan? That half hour? That half hour was everything." Ethan slowly sat down, looking at me like he was really seeing me for the first time, not as some crying stranger, but as the person who, with one small act, had saved the most important person in his life. The gratitude in his eyes. It was overwhelming. "Your mother," he said, his voice solid, decisive. "She needs surgery. How much?" "No, please," I said, waving my hands. "I didn't tell you this, to ask for anything." "I know you didn't," he cut me off, his tone leaving no room for argument. "That's exactly why we have to do this. Our family has a rule, Miss Evans. We pay our debts, especially the ones you can't put a price on." He pulled out his phone. "Not to send money, to make a call. Carter Construction has a very good health insurance plan for all employees and their immediate family. As of this moment, your mother, Mrs. Eleanor Evans, is officially an honorary administrative consultant for the company. Her entire surgery will be 100% covered. This isn't charity, Miss Evans. It's a business expense. You saved my company's most valuable asset. This is how we pay it back." I just sat there, stunned, speechless. Tears started again. But not the bad kind, the good kind. Tears of relief, of awe, at how life works. One small act of kindness, a split-second choice on a bus, had come back and saved my whole world. The seed I planted, when I least expected it, had bloomed into a miracle. Mom's surgery was a success. The next week, for 6 long hours in that waiting room, I wasn't alone. Ethan and Janet, they sat with me, quiet, patient. They didn't leave. Not for a minute. Ethan told me about his grandpa's construction company, how he'd fought to save it after his dad died. He talked about hard work, keeping your word, and his grandma, his rock. For the first time in so long, I felt understood. I wasn't alone in the fight. When Dr. Evans came out, a tired smile on his face, and said, "The surgery was a complete success. She's going to be fine," I just crumpled into a chair, so relieved I couldn't stand. And Ethan was there, a steady hand on my shoulder, a comforting silence. Mom's recovery was a series of small wins. Sitting up, walking a few steps down the hall. The day she came home, our little apartment felt bright again, full of life. Ethan and Jeanette, they became part of our lives. Ethan wasn't just a benefactor. He became a friend, a good friend. He fixed my leaky faucet, brought Mom books, and sometimes, he'd just sit in my little workshop, watching me work with this sincere admiration in his eyes. "Your talent's incredible, Mia," he said one afternoon, while I was sewing pearls on a wedding dress. "You don't just sew, you make dreams for people." He listened when I told him about my biggest dream. A little studio, Evans Bespoke. A place where any bride could get a dress made just for them, their own story in a dress. "So why don't you do it?" he asked. "Simple as that. Money, Ethan. Everything costs money," I said with a sad little laugh. He smiled. A warm smile. "Consider it Carter Construction's next investment. We invest in people with skill and heart. You got both." It took months, hard work, but we did it. Ethan helped me find a little shop in the South End. He helped me fix it up, even built the shelves himself. He believed in me, in my dream, and his belief made me believe in myself again. 9 months after Mom's surgery, Evans Bespoke opened. A beautiful, sunny September day. Mom stood next to me, healthy and glowing in a green dress I made her. Jeanette was there, beaming, hugging me tight. And Ethan, he stood back a little, in the crowd, but I could feel his proud eyes on me. A look that made my heart flutter in a new way. That very first day, a young bride came in. She was so shy, whispered that she never felt pretty enough for a wedding dress. I worked with her for weeks. I listened to her story, her fears, and I made her a simple, elegant dress that brought out her quiet beauty. The day she tried on the finished dress, she just stood in front of the mirror and cried. I feel so beautiful," she whispered, those words. To me, they were worth more than any money. They were an echo of my own journey, finding my worth, not from someone else's approval, but from what I could make with my own 2 hands. And my own heart. A year's passed. Evans Bespoke is doing well. I'm busy, happy, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm standing on my own 2 feet. On a foundation I built myself. One afternoon, scrolling the news on my break, I saw a headline. Sterling Corporation faces federal investigation for insider trading. There was a picture. Oliver and his father, rushing out of a government building. Their faces were grim, tense. They looked 10 years older. I looked at the picture of Oliver, the man who was once my whole world. And I felt nothing. Not anger, no regret. Just a distant kind of pity for a man who chose money over loyalty, who chose a fake society over real love. He lived in a fortress, all right, but his soul was the prisoner. I closed the page. It wasn't my business anymore. I looked out my shop window. Across the street, Ethan was waiting for me, leaning against his truck, smiling when he saw me looking. On a park bench nearby, my mom and Jeanette were sitting together, sharing a bag of roasted chestnuts, laughing like they'd been friends forever. Family. I realized it then. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes, it's the people who show up when your world falls apart. The ones who help you rebuild. Stronger than before. Oliver Sterling didn't break me. He freed me. His betrayal was the storm that washed away everything fake in my life, leaving a clean foundation to start over. He taught me a hard lesson. Your worth ain't in who accepts you. It's in what you create, the kindness you give, and the incredible strength you find in yourself when you have no other choice. I locked up the shop. I crossed the street and took Ethan's outstretched hand. His hand was strong, calloused from work, and so warm. "Ready to go home?" he asked, his eyes full of affection. "More than ever," I said, squeezing his hand. And as we walked off into the golden Boston afternoon, I knew I'd finally found where I belonged. Not in some fancy house on Beacon Hill, but right here, with these people, in this life I had sewn for myself, stitch by painful, beautiful stitch.